Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leadership Lens, where we speak with global leaders on what's trending in the ecosystem. Today we have with us Amaresh Godbole, who is the CEO, Digital Technology Business at the Publicis Groupe India. Welcome, Amaresh. It's great to have you on the Leadership Lens.
Thanks, Shani. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Amaresh, you are now part of the adtech advisory board, and it's always been a pleasure interacting with you over the last few years. To tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Amaresh leads the group's digital experience and technology agencies like Digitas, Razorfish, Indigo Consulting for the India market. And prior to this, Amaresh was the head of creative and capability at Google India. He has a history of over a decade with the Publicis Group, and his last role was the CEO of Digitas India. Amaresh, welcome once again. I look forward to a really enlightening conversation because yours is a profile that we don't find too often on Leadership Lens.
Great. Looking forward to this chat.
Awesome. So let's jump right in. And Amaresh, what we've been speaking about for the last couple of weeks since we've been building the adtech conference is industry trends and emerging technologies. What is it that 2025 is going to herald? What is exciting? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, see, that's an interesting question because I think one of the obvious ones that we've been talking about for the last year and a half is generative AI. But I think what the shift that we'll see in 2025 is initially there was a lot of excitement and experiments that were being done. But I think now we're getting into more of a maturity curve with generative AI. I think we'll see a lot more adoption, and I'll speak about it a little more. But the second big trend that I see emerging, and I think it'll accelerate in 2025, is extended reality. So extended reality is defined as a mix of, augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. And for anyone wondering, the difference between augmented reality and mixed reality is that in mixed reality, you can actually interact with objects that are actually not present around you, right? And all of this is being advanced by two things. One is significant advances in spatial computing. And the second big thing is the fact that there are a lot of lightweight devices for augmented reality that are hitting the market now. So it could be the Meta Ray-Ban glasses and a few other things that are out there. So I think we will see an acceleration of this technology in 2025. And I actually think there'll also be a convergence of extended reality and generative AI coming together to create a lot of personalized, exciting, real-time narratives and experiences for people. Coming back to generative AI, I think what we'll see this year is that it's going to significantly impact how we work and the kind of work that we create, right? If I speak specifically about the marketing community and the advertising community. And when we talk about how we work, it's about core workflows, whether it's writing, content creation, image creation, video creation, etc., and coding, but also the support workflows, which I think a lot of industries will adopt. So for instance, at Publicis Group, in terms of business support workflows, we've been looking at AI solutions that help transform how some of our finance functions are done, like contracting, for example, or how some of our talent functions are done, first round screening of people, for example, right? And we are building AI solutions that will help us gain scale and productivity in these functions. On the other hand, when it comes to core workflows, there's already a lot of chatter around, is AI going to be creating all images and videos and so on? I think this year we'll start seeing the adoption of some level of AI-driven visual video creation, etc., along with standard production techniques. And I think it'll be a mixed world where, for example, if you're doing a shoot tomorrow, maybe parts of it are shot in the real world and, some stock components are created using AI and so on, because diffusion models are maturing very, very quickly. So I think, tools like Sora, which is set to release in the months to come, Runway, which already exists from a video perspective, Midjourney, DALL-E, etc., from an image creation perspective. I think we'll start to see, going beyond the conversational hype to actual implementation of some of these in our workflows. And the last bit is the nature of work that we create for our clients. So here, I think some work has already happened. So for example, last year we did the Say It with Oreo campaign, which was Leo Burnett and Publicis digital technology combined effort. And what we were able to achieve in that was actually sending out personalized voice notes from Farhan Akhtar to 1.8 million people, right? So the whole idea of the campaign was that people have tricky situations in life. Farhan Akhtar is witty. Can he help them with, witty responses to solve those situations? Now, how that worked was we actually, trained a GPT model to write in the style of Farhan Akhtar. So when a person asked a question, a response would be generated in text form like Farhan Akhtar. That was then sent to Resemble AI, where we cloned Farhan Akhtar's voice. We signed his voice digital rights, to use in this particular campaign. So that text was turned into Farhan Akhtar's voice. That text was scanned by Web Purifier to make sure that there's no profanity and so on in there. And that was then sent as a voice note on someone's WhatsApp, right? And imagine being able to send out 1.8 million such responses. So that's created personalization at scale that wasn't possible before generative AI, because you'd have to have thousands of writers writing like Farhan Akhtar recording his voice 1.8 million times over. So those possibilities are very exciting. I mean, besides creative personalization at scale, I think what you'll see is a lot of websites now moving from just button-based navigation to conversational navigation, because the earlier chatbots that we had on websites were not particularly smart. But if you train a website on a GPT model today, you'll basically be able to see whatever content is in there just by asking questions. You've got avatars like HeyGen coming up, where you can hook up the avatar to a knowledge model, which means tomorrow if you have a brand ambassador, right, your brand ambassador can become your customer service agent. So I could go and chat with the brand ambassador tomorrow and ask questions and get them resolved and feel like I'm talking to a celebrity, whereas it's actually a customer service agent. So there are some very, very exciting possibilities coming our way, and I think 2025 is going to be an exciting year.
Which was the brand that did the Farhan Akhtar campaign? I think I missed that.
This was Oreo. This was done for Oreo. So this was one of the first Gen AI, leveraging APIs kind of a campaign that was done in India. It won quite a bit at Abby's and so on last year as well.
Wonderful. I think Mondelez has been on top of their game when it comes to AI.
Absolutely. They're very forward-looking.
Wonderful, wonderful. And, supported by Publicis, of course. So, Amaresh, these are some really exciting trends that we're looking at, and really exciting to be going into 2025 looking at all of this. One question that I have is, when we're looking at it in India, it is it's not just urban and rural, it is various segments even within urban, and then various segments within rural. And technology now is not evolving, it is just it's past evolutionary, it's going into a revolutionary phase, if I can put it like that, right? And in that revolution, that fast-paced movement, how do you think this is going to affect a country like India? How many of us will be able to actually adopt and move with these technologies? I am concerned about job losses. I am concerned about are we upskilling enough existing folks? Do you think these are concerns that need to be addressed, and by who?
Sure. So I think when we talk about AI and particularly generative AI, I think people have to recognize that it is fundamentally different from any other technology tools that we've had before, right? Because all of the technology tools before were guided entirely by us. They did not make their own decisions. Whereas generative AI is an agent. It can make its own decisions once you've given it a certain direction. So what it's really doing is, back in the day, you'd have when we first had an industrial age, we built machines that augmented our limbs, right? And therefore, you were able to lift more and push harder and move faster and so on, whether it was because of a train or a crane or whatever it might be. Then all of us have grown up to the information age where the world's information was at our fingertips, right? So any knowledge that you wanted in the world is 2 seconds away, it's a search away and so on. Your social networks are a click away and so on. I think this is actually starting a new age for us, the age of augmented intelligence, where for the first time, your intelligence can be augmented by an agent where once you've given it direction, it can start making decisions based on that direction on its own. So it is a fundamentally transformational technology. It is going to start a new age for us. And I think as India enters this age of augmented intelligence, there are a few things. And of course, there are fears that people have, but there's also net positives that we see coming our way. So coming to the first thing, which is job losses that you spoke about. See, in the short term, a few things may happen here and there. But generally, when something like this happens, the way we are talking to our people about it and training them about it is that we've always spoken about the fact that a lot of work is, 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, right? But with generative AI, you can probably start flipping that around, where you do 50 or 60% inspiration and 40% perspiration, and the rest of it can be handled by AI for you. So you can look at it as, are there fewer jobs required? Or you can look at it as, can fewer people or one person do 5 times or 10 times more than they used to by using these tools? So we are seeing it as a net productivity gain, right? So what it may come to us as stabilizes is, we know if a 100% agency could turn out, say, X amount of work, a 100% agency tomorrow can maybe turn out 5X amount of work. And anyway, with the content gluttony and everything happening out there, the demand for creativity is only growing. So from our industry perspective, that's how we're looking at it. And I think we'll also see a lot of increase in productivity in many other sectors. For example, recently I was on a panel where there was a major FMCG head, and they were talking about the fact that they've leveraged AI to create rapid prototyping in products, right? Which was not possible earlier. So there are many such use cases that are happening. I think one of the sectors that will gain massively from AI, if I think about it at a country level and just, taking away the blinkers of our industry, is actually healthcare, right? There's massive potential for better quality of life for people by introducing AI in healthcare. For example, there's already an LLM model out there which has been trained on, reading mammograms, and it's already become better at reading mammograms and predicting or detecting breast cancer than many doctors. So I think it will take a little bit of regulatory shifts for people to allow more applications of generative AI within the healthcare sector. But as they start seeing the benefits, I'm sure the government will move fast with that. The government right now is very digital friendly, and I think the healthcare sector will be fundamentally transformed, and we'll all have a better quality of life and better healthcare as AI gets into it. Then when you think about things like supply chains, there's a lot of potential for AI to make supply chains more efficient. So we're going to see productivity gains, we're going to see healthcare gains, and we're also going to see efficiency gains coming from AI. As far as individual upskilling is concerned, I think by and large, a lot of people these days are pretty familiar with ChatGPT, if nothing else. And that's a good starting point, actually. It's not that everyone needs to be, super savvy with prompting and AI and everything. And also AI is becoming multimodal now. So even 6 months back, you were told that, you need to learn prompt engineering to be able to get meaningful outputs out of GPT. Today, if you give GPT a reference, if you show it a table and ask them, like by uploading an image, it can create a similar table for you, right? So your prompt engineering skills are not as advanced or don't need to be as advanced as much as the way you would explain something to another human being, right? Saying, hey, here's an example, here's a reference, here's an image, and then tell them what you expect out of it. You do that with GPT, you're able to get so many outputs out of it. So I think AI is evolving very quickly, and it being multimodal means that the emphasis on prompt engineering goes down. But there is a big shift in terms of the kind of skill sets that are required, right? So for example, in our world, earlier in media planning, if you were an Excel jockey, you were the rock star, right? Because you could query data and so on. Now today, for example, we built a tool where all our channel data sources are in one place, and we have a GPT model on top of that. So you don't even need to know Excel to be able to draw out the best media plan. You just need to be able to ask the right questions. So therefore, the shift is, again, in production or in image creation, you don't need to be an artist to be able to generate a beautiful image today, right? You can do it with Midjourney as long as you have the vision of what you want out of it. So think of it as someone being given a really fast car, or 5 people being given a really fast car. The better drivers will get ahead, right? And the better drivers will be the one who shifted from craft to vision, imagination, critical thinking, and reasoning. So I think that's an emphasis that needs to happen even in our education system, where the emphasis needs to shift from learning how to use a tool to do something to having the right vision and imagination for it. So I think overall it'll be a net positive, hopefully. But yeah, these are some of the shifts that I'm seeing from a country perspective.
Wonderful. I think what I take away is that it's easier to teach the tool to work more effectively with us than to teach the human being to work more effectively with the tool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that human beings can't be taught, but I think it's an adoption thing. But I think as it becomes an imperative, people automatically adopt it, right?
Yes, and I mean it in the most absolute positive way, that if we can just make something happen faster, it is only going to make the economy grow faster. Faster economy growth means more jobs, more skilling. It's the same thing that with computers and with internet and everything, we've all seen those shifts.
Absolutely. With every technology, there's an initial fear of job losses. But eventually what you see is that you actually gain more growth out of it. And more growth means more job opportunities. And those jobs could be different from what jobs look like.
I think net message that I take away is that there's no need to be afraid of this technology. It is just another progression, and the more we move with it, the better aligned we will be to work with
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And I mean, the genie is already out of the bottle, so you can be afraid or not afraid, but I don't think you can escape it. So you might as well embrace it.
Absolutely. I think this is the message that we as adtech send out to brands as well. Where some brands we see a little bit of a challenge adopting AI, and so what is your experience here? What is the maturity ladder for an adoption of AI or a Gen AI look like for, let's say, a legacy brand versus a D2C brand? How do you see this growth?
Sure. I think it all boils down to appetite for risk and, the kind of processes that are put in place for a company to progress and move forward, right? So what tends to happen is founder-driven companies and startups, they tend to be able to move very quickly on some of these things because they don't really have to answer to too many people, and they don't have to worry about what happens if something goes wrong because, they're taking the risk on their own behalf. Whereas if you are a large multinational conglomerate, you usually have a lot of processes that are put in place to safeguard the organization. So, which means it might take you a little longer to be able to move forward. Having said that, there are always exceptions. Like we spoke about Mondelez, for example, they've created a culture of being the first ones to move forward. The third lot may be your Indian large companies or Indian SMEs where they actually have the ability to take decisions fast, but they tend to be a little more pragmatic, and what they're looking for is value, right? Anything that you propose, they're like, we are not here to just do innovation for innovation's sake. What is the return that we're going to get on it? So I think over the last year and a half, if I look at these three broad buckets, which is startups and fast moving companies, large multinational conglomerates who are a little more slower in the way they approach things, and Indian companies which are more value focused, all of them or many of them in some form or the other have tried experiments, but they've been a little bit one off. I think now, having seen the net benefits of AI, all of them are finding ways to do this at a more institutional level. So institutionalizing AI is becoming very important. How do you bring it in your, business support workflows? How do you bring it in your core business workflows? What is the impact that it creates? And if you look at some of the recent Gartner reports, etc., a lot of maturity frameworks have been released for generative AI, saying what are the questions you should ask, what are the areas of your business that you should, probe and see if AI can actually be transformational in there. And of course, while consulting companies make recommendations, a lot of clients rely on partners like us and others to implement those changes. One very interesting move I've seen is one of the large Indian automotive players, or other conglomerates of which automotive is large. They've actually created a separate AI company just to provide AI solutions to all their group companies, right? And I mean that's a very interesting move, and it kind of points the direction in which way people are taking it seriously and how they'll proceed to actually build AI solutions for their business workflows.
Wonderful. I think looks like we are on the right path to AI. And Amresh, when we spoke last, we spoke about how brands can, and to pick up a use case, this is really for any brand which has not done this yet. If you combine an LLM with a Gen AI and you have your single source of truth, it's kind of like the holy grail that we've been working. I mean, I was speaking to people and I said, nothing's really happened on that SSOTP, single source of truth, the 360-degree vision of the view of the consumer. Nothing's really moved much. But I think this is the time by next year we should see movement here. Is that holy grail that brands can work towards?
Yeah, absolutely. And the tool that I spoke to you about earlier, which is a Publicis Group tool that we built for ourselves. So just to take one step back, when we talk about AI, one part of AI is adopting tools which already exist. So whether it's a Chat GPT or a Midjourney or Firefly or whatever it might be. But the other part of it is we are also, as Publicis Group or for our clients, building custom tools and custom platforms which leverage the APIs that come from some of these AI platforms, right? So whether it's OpenAI or any of the others. So the reason I call this out is because the tool that I spoke to you about earlier. So for example, our Publicis Group tool, which basically takes an end-to-end view of media planning and data analysis, that is hooked up to multiple sources. So whether it's Meta, Google, etc., all the channels that we invest in, the TV channels that we invest in, or some of the CRM channels, some of the first-party data from brands. all of it is fed into this tool, and that creates part of what you're talking about, which is a single view of everything that you're doing. And then we hooked up a GPT model to that, which basically pulls from OpenAI and uses GPT to be able to analyze all this myriad data. So you are actually able to ask it questions like, can you tell me what is the optimum campaign performance based on everything I've done before? And it'll make recommendations to you conversationally. So absolutely, to what you're saying, the more mature these kind of tools get, you'll eventually get to a point where all these things converge with the right data sources. And conversationally, you'll be able to have one view of what your customer activation looks like.
Wonderful. I think we've talked a lot about technology, and technology is ready to give us answers to a lot of questions that have been bugging brands for a long time, be it attribution, be it single view of a consumer, be it how to get personalized messages, effective personalized messages out there faster, with more precision. Coming to growth and coming to business, Amaresh, 2024, we're at the end of the year almost. And I've heard mixed reviews from multiple businesses on how the year progressed. It was a year where people came out of COVID and, not came out of COVID, but officially the end of the COVID journey or revenge spending and all those things. Where do you see growth coming from in 2025? Where are the focus areas for 25?
So, based on a lot of the conversations I've had with clients this year and the kind of briefs that we are getting and the kind of demand that we're seeing, and I've touched upon this in our adtech advisory board discussion, in fact. I think because India's recovery from COVID was a very K-shaped recovery, right? Which means that people who were doing well actually started doing even better. And maybe some people at the bottom of the pyramid are worse off than before. I mean, hopefully it's a short-term situation, but it's the fact of the matter is it's a K-shaped recovery. And which is why you also see a mixed bag in business, where, some businesses are thriving and doing really well, others are not. I think the big thing over here is that what's happened is luxury or lifestyle and premium sectors have been booming. So if you see, luxury apartments are flying off the shelf, luxury cars are flying off the shelf. All of them are seeing immense growth. Whereas your more bottom of the pyramid categories, like affordable two-wheelers, FMCG goods, those are pretty flat, right? And therefore, from what I've seen, most companies are on I think the single biggest opportunity they're seeing in the short term is a premiumization drive, saying that how can I get more out of my existing set of customers? Because right now the bottom of the pyramid is not ready to consume more. And to put it in telecom terms, I think the emphasis is on ARPU, average revenue per user. How do I actually increase that? So in multiple categories, I'm seeing it. FMCG players are trying to do that. Two-wheeler players are trying to do that, saying that how do I sell higher ticket goods to the existing base of customers that I have who seem to have a lot of money to spend? And how that translates for us is that digital then therefore becomes a very important medium, because a large set of these consumers are no longer your linear TV consumers, etc., right? So therefore digital as a means to reach them, whether it's through content, whether it's through influencers, whether it's through experiences, that becomes critical. So a lot of the briefs around premiumization do involve the right means of targeting through digital and the right means of delivering messages and experiences through digital. The other big thing that becomes important is, loyalty, first-party data, being able to re-engage customers. Because if you're trying to increase the average revenue per user, you first need to know who that person is and what is it that will get them to come and engage with you again. So that's another big area where, on the top of the pyramid, on the top of the funnel, you're trying to use technology and digital content and experiences to get their attention. And at the bottom of the funnel, you're trying to re-engage them and increase their life cycle value.
Wonderful. I think there is this really big scope for growth in 25, and I think 24 was just the experimental ground for it, but 25 is really where we're going to see this, where people have understood what is that piece of my audience that is likely to grow, and how do I service them, how do I work better with them. Thank you so much, Amaresh. I think this was such a wonderful conversation, and I look forward to many more such conversations. All our audience out there, look forward. Thank you for joining us today, and do look forward to the next episode of Leadership Lens. Thank you.